What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Crispy back again with another video. Finally. Happy New Year's to you guys. Happy belated Christmas. I know it's been a minute, but a lot has been going on in my life recently and I haven't been able to make a lot of videos. So I'm finally coming back. Here we are. And today we're going to be looking at Soul, the 2020 Pixar movie. Now, if you don't know it by looking at the title card, I'm going to tell you now. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Just letting you know. Alright, so let's get into it. I just recently watched this, so this is actually a quote-unquote live reaction. And we'll start with what it's called. It's called Soul. It's a 2020 Disney Pixar film. It runs an hour and 50 minutes long and is produced by Pete Docter. You're gonna have to excuse me. I'm looking over at the card. If you haven't noticed, I'm actually in a new setting here. How you guys like it? Let me know down the comment section. I also got a new mic. I got it for Christmas. So hopefully you guys can hear me really well. So let's get back to it. It's produced by Pete Docter, who actually produced Monsters, Inc., Inside Out, Up, and things of that nature. Some of the people that were on it were like Tina Fey for the voice of 22, Jamie Foxx for Joe, Graham Norton for for the Moonwind character, Rachel House for Terry, Alicia Braga for the counselor Jerry, and then the male voice of the counselor Jerry was by Richard. I'm not even gonna try and say that last name. I'm sorry. Dez was by Donald Rawling, and Questlove was Curly. Some of these people you know, some of these people you don't, but it's okay. All of these people made an amazing movie. Now, the way they have this described on both the DVD and the Disney Plus is, ever wonder where your passion, your dreams, and your inspiration come from? What is it like to be you? In the 2020, Pixar Animation Studios takes you on a journey from the streets of New York City to the cosmic realms to discover the answer to life's most important questions. And that's honestly a good description of it. This is a very, very well animated movie. I'll say this movie is very well animated. A good number of artists are unable to draw people of color or of African descent, mostly using a lot of stereotypical features to depict all characters and make them really look all the same. And this, however, feels like, they actually did their homework. They made everyone completely different. They gave them so much depth and just facial features, body features. Like, everyone was included in this. And while this is a black movie, it did every person that was in it justice. That's what I would say. My cousin, earlier when this movie first came out on Christmas, pointed out that the passing of the main character happened so abruptly that she really didn't think it was appropriate for her kids. But I have to, disagree with that. I believe that the concept of death is already hard to explain, but having it happen the way when it did during the first pretty much installment of the movie, like, it shows that life is short and you should live it the best way you can while you can, because you don't know when you're going to pass. So being a novice musician and watching this movie was really interesting because they made it so that they explained what it is like for music to kind of take you away and what the zone is. And honestly, it's exactly like what it shows in this movie. It's transcendent. It's kind of unexplainable, but they explained it pretty well. So go and watch this movie. Also, being a young aspiring entrepreneur, I also understand the want for something better out of life. While this isn't about entrepreneurship, it does have a lot of things that we as an entrepreneur deal with, in the sense that a lot of people don't see what we see. And it's not that they don't care, it's that they care a lot. They see that this is a very risky move and that it may not pan out. And, they really just want you to be happy, healthy, and be able to take care of yourself, but you really want a purpose out of life and you want to enjoy it. And this is what you go for, because that's one of the biggest things about this movie is finding a purpose. So rather than security, respect, and reputation, which is, again, it's not like you don't get that with an entrepreneur, but you have a lot of creativity, you have a lot of risk, and all of that leads to self-fulfillment and actually living the life that they want to live. During this movie, they brought in the concept of multiple dimensions, which really opens up a lot. If you've ever seen the Pixar story arc, then you will understand that it's kind of hard. It's not really hard. They've been picking and putting and, foreshadowing and a whole bunch of other things. This is so that way they can expand that Pixar universe and everything can come together in a nice little ball. However, there is one part in this movie that has nothing to do with the dimensions that I'm like, how did this get greenlit? And if you've watched the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They spat it out about 30 times in like a minute. So you're just like, wow, wow, how did that happen? Speaking of which, the opposite of that being the great beyond. Now, I really did like the way they did this. While I am a Christian, this is something that I can say really touched on a lot of people. Like, it doesn't say, oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. They were very inclusive about that and made sure that everyone could, that there was really no one that was quote unquote right, but that everyone was included. And I really enjoy that. It's to the point where, you're seeing the bright white light. And that's what a lot of people have said they have seen, no matter what religion they follow. And for them to do it that way, I think was the smartest move. Something else that I found interesting and I like the way that they did was the way that they put a bunch of people dying. Like, it was kind of morbid. But then when you go to the next scene and you see all these, unborn souls, you're like, wow, a lot of people are dying, but a lot of people are being born. Like, this this is a real thing. Like, for one person being born, like one person dies, or two people being born, one person, the ratio doesn't exactly exist, but it's like just a constant flow, the circle of life, if you may. I'm sorry, y'all. It's really late, and I'm just trying to give you guys my live reaction to this. So one of the characters in this movie is called Terry. They are the counter of souls, so that way they can make sure that their tallies are up and everything else. They really remind me of a librarian, and a very strict one at that, to where everyone else around them is chill, but they're very serious and so driven. It's very comical. Another thing was with 22. 22 is the, it seems like it's the number that the soul was quote unquote made. And if that is the case, then 22 has been there for a very, very, very long time. Like, she is the 22nd soul to be made out of billions. That is quite insane. One of the things 22 says during one of the scenes is, you can't crush a soul here. That's what Earth is for. And that just made me laugh. But it made me also think, like, why do people not enter this world in their prime? And it really kind of showed it here whenever 22 went down to Earth. It's like, you have to acclimate to this world. And being as a baby and being able to be nurtured and taken care of and taught, this is the best way for someone to enter this world, regardless of if they're the first person or the billionth person. I don't know if any of you guys remember, or I may be just showing my age here. You can see there's little gray hairs over here. Nah. But if you've ever seen Out of the Box, it was an old Disney, the Playhouse Disney show, and this has a lot of that type of vibes in it, especially whenever you look at the box. Like, it says literally just, this is just a box, but inside is so much more. It's just a whole world, and inside that world we see the lost souls, and lost souls not being that they were lost during death, but that they're lost on earth, because the way that they explain it is that when you live and you're in the zone being, when you're playing music and you're just in it, in it, in it, playing basketball, in it, playing, just doing anything that you can actually dig yourself into and be passionate about. It can also become an obsession to the point in which that you can't see anything else. Your life is nothing else. One of the funny bits in the story was this bank broker who was a lost soul, and they sent him back to his tethered body, and he just went berserk. He's like, what am I doing with my life? I'm like, yo, chill. Like, you gotta chill. But it really does be like that sometimes. When you just have an existential crisis and you finally just be like, what am I doing? And you just want to tell everybody. And you do that extreme. That is, that was funny. That was funny to me. Something I like the way that they did was that they put everybody's perspective into this. Like Joe, his character is a very selfish character, but you really don't see it until about halfway through the movie, because he's not in his own perspective. In his world, he's justified. He is owed all of this in his life because he feels that his life was pointless. But you don't see how selfish he really is compared to others until others are introduced. Like, again, when we see him first, he's in his own little world. We see it from his point of view. But the more we get into the movie, the more we see, man, this man really doesn't know what it is to live a life. And he had to learn that too, just as much as 22 did. I also like the way they did the cat scenes. It wasn't a thing of, oh man, this is a cat. What's it like to be a cat? No, it was, he's a cat. Let's get it over with. Like, that was honestly great because they could put in a lot more, such as like the barber scene. The barber scene was, to be honest, the best scene in all of the movie, except for maybe when he goes to see his mom, but we'll get to that in a moment. The barber scene really expresses the community of black culture and what it is to actually go get a haircut, because just getting a haircut isn't just going to get your haircut. It's an event. It's something where you go and you talk to people, you learn the news, you become inspired, and you see people from just different walks of life coming together, and it's like a small utopia. And to really put it in perspective like this, and watching 22 talk with Des, that that was honestly something really cool, because you never see it in a lot of shows where it's like life happens. Des didn't want to be a barber, but he was in the military, his daughter got sick, and he needed to make some money. So, that was real. That was a real statement right there. He's like, I'm not sad about what happened. And that's one of the notes that I had, was that This movie was one of the deepest movies. Purpose is one of the things that everyone on this planet strives to figure out. And it's one of the biggest things that they fear of. They fear being themselves and truly being who they are, and fear that they may be stepping out into something that they don't understand or stepping out into someone else's territory. But sometimes your plans just don't go the way that you think they're going to go. And you have to roll with the punches. And you have to trust that God has it right for you. That, you know, the situations that you go through aren't just the situation, that they are meant for you. Like you're saying with Dez and being a barber, like he wanted to be a veterinarian and all this stuff happened, but he's happy where he is. And don't get me wrong, sometimes, like Joe, you know, he says, as soon as I get into this place, everything's going to change. But as soon as he gets the chance, he's like, I don't know if this is what I really want to do, if this is really who I am. Because it's a constant it's a constant thing. You have to constantly be building on yourself and making yourself into the person that you're supposed to be. Like that's something that this movie really spoke about, and I'm happy that they could portray it to children in a way that they can understand. This movie also had a very relatable connection with Joe and his mother, because again, like I said, being an entrepreneur, sometimes you're looked at like, what in the world, this is so risky, why don't you just go and do something that has, you know, a good pension, you know, 401k, if that's the case, has benefits, stuff of that nature. And it may not fulfill your need during your life, you know, during living, it may not fulfill that need. And it's not that people don't get it, it's not that parents don't get it, it's that they want the best for you, they want better for you. And one of the things that she said was, you know, your dad had to struggle, and it wasn't just him struggling, he had me, and what I did brought in the money. I don't want you to have to be like that. And a lot of parents are like that. They want their kid to be able to be fulfilled and enjoy their life, but they also know that this life is hard, and it has to go both ways. The kid has to understand, yes, life is hard, and sometimes you may not get to do your dream, but that can be a hobby or something that, you know, you just do in your free time. But the parent also has to understand that they have to nurture that part of the child as well. And that's something that, you know, came about when he went and actually had the conversation with his mom, like, this is something I've always wanted to do, and no matter what, it's going to be a part of me. I know that he's like, I know that this happened, but there's nothing else I want more. And she was like, okay, okay, I understand. This is not something that I can save you from. This is something that you're going to want to do forever. This is your passion. And she's like, I have to accept this, not only accept it, but nurture you in it. And that's exactly what she did. And that's something that, you know, is dear to my heart, because that's something that I've had to deal with before. And it was almost verbatim, honestly. Like some of the stuff that was going back and forth was verbatim. And now I'm in a, you know, now I'm in a better place to where I'm supported all the way around. The last thing I want to talk about was 22 became a lost soul. Now this really is something that I think a lot of people can get behind, because everything you put into somebody is expanded, and sometimes it's expanded to a very, what's the word, sometimes it's expanded to a very radical degree. And that's something that everyone has to understand, not just being a mentor, but being a person that someone looks up to, and you're always being looked up to. So don't think that just because you're, you know, 5 years old, that you're not being looked up to. Honestly, you're being looked up to by the people who are younger. So watch what you say, watch what you do, because people are looking at you. And that is probably the only purpose that I can say that literally everyone has, that you have to pass a torch on to somebody else. One of the last bits of this movie, and I'm not trying to ruin it for anybody, but one of the things that was said that I found very, very profound was when Joe and 22 were going down to Earth together, actually going down together as a mentor and the mentoree. And, she said, "You can't go down with me." And he's like, "I know, but I'll go down as far as I can." And that was something very powerful. As a mentor, your job is to make sure that the person is ready to do whatever it is that they have to do, and you are supposed to go with them as far as you can go, because you can't live their life for them. That's not your job. Your job is to push them in that direction. But as soon as you get there and you see them off, like, that they're going to be okay. And that's a really powerful thing. That's a really powerful thing, and I think it's something that everyone should understand, that as long as you are looked up to, watch what you say, because every seed that you plant can be turned into a good thing, a bad thing, and it can be blown up. You are that person's entire being at some points. And what you believe in, if you don't believe in them, then they won't believe in themselves, because they don't see it. They won't see it. Be positive around people. That was something that, Joe, even whenever he was teaching, it was something that he wasn't really passionate about giving it to the next generation. But as the movie progressed, he understood what it was to be that person, that mentor. And that's all I really got to say on it. This was honestly a great movie to me. I've seen it twice already, and I think I'll give it. What would I give it? I'll give it a 9. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, honestly, because it's one of the better movies I saw. And like I said, there's a lot of movies that I would like to give a 10 to, but this one has it's small flaws, really small, but like I said, it's just enough to make me not give it a 10. So 9 out of 10. Go watch Soul and have a good night.